Dear Father, I have been struggling with the aftermath of a close relative suicide a year ago. The recent tragedies within the diocese and at school have brought this all fresh to the surface again. How does one even begin to understand this tragedy and deal with the guilt of not being able to help from preventing this? Also, I am worried about the eternal salvation of my loved one. As children, we were taught that suicide was a mortal sin, and one could go straight to hell if they committed this sin. What is the church's stance on this today? Wow. That's a tough one. I need some help with that one. But I doubt that we can really believe firmly that because somebody commits suicide, that person is not saved. Because I think a mortal sin, I think we're going to hear about that before, that means knowing what you're doing, with knowing well it is a mortal sin, and you do it. Now the question is, how free was that person commit suicide before he committed it or she committed it? And therefore, I believe that one cannot really be sure that person will go to hell because of that. Because God is love, and God will try to save everyone. But the condition in which he commits suicide and before he or she dies, there can be room there to ask forgiveness.
I think what he says is true on a number of levels. The first level, that in order to commit a mortal sin, you have to have the free will. And free will seems to be somewhat inhibited there, depending on the person's mental state. The other part of that is, there was a saint, and I can't remember who it was, who said there is an infinite amount of space between the bridge and the water below. And he said this in reference to someone jumping off a bridge, that during that time, and I'll comment on time in a minute, during that time, there could be a moment of reconciliation. Even John Vianney, if you read Trudeau's biography of St. John Vianney, St. John Vianney had the gift of prophecy, and he could see into the future. And a woman came to him, she was so shaken the one day. She said, "My husband has died suddenly, and I'm afraid that he's in hell, because he never came to church and just never prayed and things like that." And Vianney said, "Your husband is on his way to heaven." She said, "How is this possible?" And he said, "You remember on your wedding night, you asked him to be able to hang the Sacred Heart, the picture of the Sacred Heart, in your bedroom, and he did not object to it." Really? That's what's getting this guy in purgatory on the way to heaven. The fact that he did not object to that. So I think there are a number, it's very difficult to deal with that. The Catechism states that it is grave sin to take your own life. It is, but in order to have grave sin, there has to be that freedom of will. I had a girl in high school one time, and I remember her asking me, if I kill myself, will I go to hell? And I said, yes, you will go to hell. And it was later on that year that I had met with her, and she said to me, the fact that you told me I would go to hell is what prevented me from committing suicide. And so I think there has to be some pastoral discernment there as well. He's going to come up here and refute me right now.
I think the person that asked this question needs some encounter, spiritual journey. Because at the level at which the person is, there are deeper questions and deeper search than just on the level of the question that is being asked. There has been crisis, a repeated crisis in the life of the person, and the person is searching. So you will need to meet a spiritual guide, if I may use that, what we call a spiritual direction. You need a spiritual direction so that the spiritual director can hear the unsaid, because there is so many unsaid in the question. There is need for a spiritual direction and a spiritual counseling. It is within this counseling that the healing needs to take place. If that healing has not occurred, that problem will still be there. So the person I would say is get some counseling, get some spiritual direction, get some encounter. You need healing. Person going to hell. I'm not sure in all my theological teaching the church has ever said that somebody has gone to hell. I've never heard that. Sometimes we see and conclude on what the church has not said. Demas, for example, is told heaven. It's told heaven. So sometimes it's we presume what the church did not say. Yes, to commit suicide is a grave thing, it's a grievous act. But the church had never said that this particular person is in hell. Because that is left for God to judge. That is the realm at which none of us can make a judgment on. It is the duty, it is the responsibility of God. So let God take care of that. But within the context of what we are talking, you have had a very bitter experience and you need healing. It is that healing that you need to search. And that person can only get that healing through counseling, through spiritual direction, through prayer, and through support. That is just what I think I can say to the person. If you're here, you need that healing. It's a journey. It's not the one-day thing, neither can it be 2 days. It's a journey that will take you over a period of time. Thank you.
Experience of having buried a woman who committed suicide in our own parish down there in Nigeria, in a particular place. This woman was one of the people we depended on, or we looked upon as a good Christian. And one particular time, she went to see one of her children, an adopted child. She stayed with him until the day she returned. 2 days later, she hung herself in front of her room on a tree. The people began to come to me. They say, "Oh, Father, what are we to do? We cannot bury her." And then I had to run to the bishop. This woman is dead, and they say we cannot bury her. The bishop said, "That woman, the one that looked after me when I came," I said, "Yes." He said, "She can be buried." She was not in her honest mind when she killed herself. And also there was another man who was really fighting or quarreling with his brother, and he used a dagger to dagger the brother, and then he didn't get him, came back to him and just cut a particular artery. He bled to death. And we buried the same man. The bishop was in front at the headquarters. So, in a way, the bishop always made a distinction between somebody who did something with all his mind, and a case of somebody who did something without knowing it. I think that that is one of the things we shall be able to distinguish. This bishop, the reason why we accepted him was because he was a canon lawyer at that time. So we said the canon lawyer knows better